listening to America First Radio. Here is your host, Paul Adams.
Okay, let's get right down to brass tacks here. This is a very special, urgent message. No frills, no bells and whistles message to Mr. Alex Jones and our dear President Donald Trump. I'm at a coffee shop. I normally do this somewhere more secluded, private, but it has to be done. The flood of ideas came to me at around 4:44. When I looked at the clock, it was 4:44 in the morning, and 4:44 is a very significant number for me. It always is associated with a feeling of being at the right place at the right time, of having some kind of a connection with let's say the metaphysical. And that is the reason my YouTube handle is 444age. So here's the message for Alex. The solution is to start an online social network that imitates Twitter, and then take the company on the stock market, go public, do an IPO, make sure you retain control. And now I've been communicado by email with Robert David Steele also. I was going to interview him, but we had some technical issues, so we had to abort the interview. We may or we may not do it later. I have listened to just about every interview he has conducted on the internet, and he has done a lot of them. The first thing that mystifies me is, why do people introduce him as simply as a CIA operative, an ex-CIA spy? This is very low-key. The man has done a lot more than just that. He's not just an ex-CIA operative. He's not just an ex-Marine. I mean, you get 20 seconds to make a great impression. I mean, to his credit, he's humble enough to make no waves. He doesn't like to boast. And I think I know why, because people would think he's full of himself. He and I are very much on the same wavelength. We almost have the same kind of look, same kind of features. But this man, if I was to introduce this man, these are the only things I would say about him. He wrote the first CIA Standard Operating Procedures. He also wrote the NATO Special Intel Handbook. And he also co-formed the first ever Marine Corps Intel Center. And he has several advanced degrees. Okay, and the fact that he doesn't mention any of that in his interviews, it just shows you he's not full of himself. He just wants to keep a low profile and help the Republic. He's a patriot. But it makes all the difference when the people tune in to listen to him and they want an introduction of who is this guy. I will listen to a man like that for hours if I knew what he has accomplished, as opposed to him just being another CIA operative who maybe conducted false flags, which is a pejorative actually. It does not convey, shall we put it, trust. It conveys connivance, it conveys duplicity. Yeah, but of course it's a necessary evil, right? We have to do what we have to do. And his ideas are golden, they resonate, they make perfect sense. And I think President Trump must integrate his ideas. He wants to bring in liberals who are all about freeing the Republic from the clutches of the globalists. A few of these people are Cynthia McKinney, Dennis Kucinich, Ralph Nader, Ron Paul. I would also include in the mix Tom Woods. He also suggests Jesse Ventura. The label Republican and Democrat is a marketing gimmick. It's like General Motors rolling out Chevys and Dodges. People need to decouple from that false reality, false paradigm. They need to be educated, and we need presidential firesides. We need the President of the United States to be the father of the nation, to take time out on a Sunday evening maybe and start having online informal firesides by radio, online by internet, have his own dedicated channel. Robert Steele calls it the Trump Network. That would be one way of doing it. Anyway, you have to bypass the mainstream media. The people will have to be educated. They'll have to know there's a dedicated channel, dedicated radio station. The president comes on every Sunday night at 7 o'clock and he gives a fireside. He educates the people what's really going on. And as Robert says, that would round the disfranchised, the apathetic, detached, comatose electorate that does not vote in elections, that stays out of elections. The 60 to 70% of disfranchised voters. And Dennis Kucinich is a must-have inside the administration, so is Cynthia. We need more color, more variety. Alan West may be another pick. Now, we must understand that this election, this administration, this presidency is not a minor pit stop for America. Okay, this is a major overhaul. This is where we can take apart degenerate, dysfunctional components, rebuild the foundation from the ground up. We're not here to fix a damaged fender or change the oil and check the tire pressure. Okay, no more half measures, no more cosmetic touch-ups. This is where you need outside thinking, out-of-the-box thinking, new blood. You see, the Luciferian agenda is really very clever. They inspire the globalist left, the enemies of populism, by telling them that if you can convince the opposition that a good idea is a bad idea simply because it originated with you, you'll have won half the battle. So what does the left suggest? Well, they talk about federalizing the elections. That is actually a very good thing. They've talked about eliminating the Electoral College. That's another good thing. They've talked about some kind of universal health care. Again, I mean, come on. Does a right to life not include a modicum, a bare minimum of good health and sustenance? So, Robert Steele's initiative is electoral reform. His primary objective is to return the government back to the people, which was my number one slogan when I ran briefly. It was empower the people. Empower the people, empower the people. That's all we need to do. Return the government back to the people. Let's make this a government of, by, and for the people. There's so many different ways of saying this. But that's the theme. And don't let the left distract you. Don't let the left nip at your heel with all kinds of outside incidental issues. And don't pay attention to them. I mean, if I was president, I would just ignore, and keep reiterating my main theme as loudly as possible. So, Robert Steele's initiative is, again, one of the best out there. That's all we can be discussing in the future. His initiatives dovetail with my mantra, which is to establish a secured online U.S. citizen account that can be accessed with a biometric scan, like a retinal scan, not an RFID chip. Because if you introduce subcutaneous chips, you might as well kiss America goodbye. People will run for the exits. We don't want that. So before you can fix the elections, before you can get rid of the two-party duopoly, the gerrymandering, the hackneyed politicians who use focus groups to come up with metadata and the flavor of the week policies, who stand for everything and stand for nothing, you need to identify who is a citizen and who is not. And that is done with biometrics. Fingerprint retinal scan. That's the only way. And from there you set up a fully secured online U.S. citizen account, just like a bank account, eBay account, PayPal account, triple secured, nobody can hack into it. And that's why they're talking a lot about Russian hacking, is to discourage the nation from having a centralized online citizen account. They're trying to create that fear, the perception that it will not work. What can you do once you have a U.S. citizen account? Okay, well, let's talk about the features and benefits here. You can vote in a presidential election, a state election, local election. The account should also provide you with a breakdown of your choices, who to vote for, their biographies, their positions and issues, a live feed when they are campaigning. You can see the size of their rallies. And the other thing you should be able to do with a U.S. citizen account is start petitions, participate in polls. You should be able to instigate impeachments and recalls. We are talking now of a government that is of, by, and for the people. That's another slogan people are drawn to. They were drawn to it in the campaign. It means everything to them. It is the essence of what America is, of what the American experiment is. A government of, by, and for the people. So what else can you do with the account? Well, the people, as the rightful owners of their constitution and their nation, can enter into a virtual constitutional convention, discuss ways to improve it. The states can also participate. But never forget that the Constitution is not simply the purview of constitutional lawyers. It's the social compact, the contract between the people who are the employers and the government who is the employee. Do you want to unify the nation? Do you want to see more patriotism? Get them involved in their constitution. The people, as the rightful owners, with the technology we have right now, should be able to amend their own constitution. Okay, it's part of wheeling and dealing, the art of the deal. There's a saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's taken me a lifetime to really understand what this means. People won't remember the information you fed them as much as how you made them feel. That's what makes us different from robots. And what else can you do with a citizen account? Well, you should be able to veto bills and executive orders. Again, the people are the employers. So it would make perfect sense for them to have the power to say, not so fast, we don't agree with a bill that will confiscate our guns, or we don't agree with a declaration of war, or we don't agree on a budget increase. And electoral reform is a must, okay? But look, lobbying restrictions, term limits, those are just cosmetics. Unless the changes are systemic, embedded within the Constitution, the next time a new sheriff comes into town, he can change all that. So at the end of the day, we should not have to wait around for a patriotic billionaire to lead the nation. We should have a new set of parameters by which to elect an official into the office of president. Character is not a function of status, wealth, accolades, or physical stature. Okay, we all understand that. Pretty simple. So what else? With that account, the people should be able to communicate with their elected officials. They should be the primary communication backbone at the federal, state, and local level. We are first citizens of a county, then of a state, and finally, we are citizens of the nation. Perhaps the most important feature, we should be able to instigate a referendum on matters pertaining to abortion, gay marriage, death penalty, euthanasia, vaccines, weather manipulation, etc., etc. And this is where we have the hive effect at its most potent. Okay, we're all connected to some degree to what I refer to the quantum plenum, the higher vibrations, of truth, intelligence, God, if you want to call it. And the enemy, the antithesis of truth, the father of lies, Lucifer, is trying very hard to disconnect us from the source, God. He tempts us constantly. He gets us off kilter with rage and lust and our appetites, our ego, and that creates a disconnect. So to be tied to God, to be connected, to be hooked up to the source, we need to be trying at least to be living examples, to be keeping our bodies holy like temples, which they are. And then we can be centered and feel the impressions of the castles of heaven coming from the Almighty. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Anything short of that is a recipe for a disaster in these latter days. So, to summarize, number one, Alex Jones needs to start a social network where he needs to take the company public, raise, 20 million, 30, 40, 50 million. And I agree with Robert Steele. Alex needs to sue the bejeebies out of Google, a scorched earth lawsuit to teach them a lesson. And that way also Mark Zucchini will pay attention. By the way, I deleted my Facebook account a year ago. Nothing more to do with Facebook. Done. And number two, Trump needs to integrate people such as McKinney, Sinich, Ventura, Tom Woods, Ralph Nader, David Steele. We need, number three, a top-down overhaul which will fix the systemic defects. We need to have the president gather in that 70% disfranchised, apathetic America and sell them on the idea of how they can have their country back, be the employers once again, and have a government that is truly of, by, and for the people. And I think Thomas Jefferson would be very proud of that kind of holistic approach, a general overhaul. And if you want unity, you need to start embracing others that are outside the GOP apparatus. Now, there will be those who will fight this tooth and nail, and you know who they are. Reince Priebus, the Rhino Snitch, Paul Ryan, Soros, Bushes, the list goes on. Never mind the left, they'll do everything to sabotage anyone whose livelihood depends on the two-party illusion will be affected. So get the Americans behind you and you won't need the rhinos, the hangers on. And just remember one thing, people will much rather die for ideals than for a fat bank account. And what better idea than a government that is off by and for the people, which was the main theme during the campaign. This idea will guarantee President Trump a spot on Mount Rushmore. Not the jobs, not the wall. And I agree with Robert Steele. He can be the greatest president since George Washington. Trump needs to be the collaborative president, which he has been aiming for. He's always reaching outwards to include others. The mainstream media, of course, won't recognize that, but we know their days are numbered. He needs fresh thinking from new blood, people with new ideas. There are too many hard-boiled, inbred thinkers who talk within echo chambers. He needs out-of-the-box thinkers who are from no party or another party, who are patriots. We are living in very historic biblical times. All eyes are on Israel. With Israel, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. One state or two-state solution, either way, no one wins. The only solution is a two-state solution with Palestinians relocating somewhere in Southern Arabia where they can carve out their own nation. That's it. And since that won't happen, war is almost a certainty. And that means American intervention. Of course, Iran is going to keep badgering us, taunting us, and there's going to be other opportunities to unleash on Iran. Of course, with our depleted military, you've got no option but go over the top and nuclear. China's not going to wait around for us to retool and rearm and have the upper hand. They will have lost the edge by then, so it's very likely they will make a move. They will probably pound sooner than later. And I listened to Dave Hodges and Mike Adams discuss this Cal exit and how it implicates a Chinese landing on California shores. Both came to the same conclusion independently, and the funny thing is, I had the same premonition a week before I heard their podcast. It's called the Hive Effect. So we are, people like us, we're like watchmen. We are like watchmen sitting high on a mountaintop looking at the horizon, and what we see is what we report. I think the globalists want desperately to balkanize America while we are trying to keep it all together, not only all together, but tighter than ever before. So if I was President Trump, I would not get sidetracked by the left, the petty little arguments, the death by 1,000 cuts. I would focus on the greater ideals. I would macro-manage and let the cabinet micromanage. I'm at America's Beck and Call. My email is americafirstradio@gmail.com. If you need to contact Robert David Steele, be happy to intervene. I can easily relay a message to Robert, as can Alex Jones, of course. So until next time, God bless our America, and God bless President Trump.